Hi guys! Tonight I'm going to talk about two books. I'm going to give you two non-spoiler reviews. The first book I'm going to talk about is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I really enjoyed this book. I wound up listening to it as an audiobook because I was like, I didn't think I was going to be that impressed by it, but it really completely blew me away to the point where like I was trying to find frantic moments to listen to it, and I wish at that moment I would have bought it because I think I would have sped through it. So I have the second one as a physical book because it's not actually out on audiobook. I'm curious. I'm curious. Does anyone know why? But this book follows a character named Cassie, and her mom was a psychic, so she always was really good at like reading people and knowing like why people did things because her mom taught her that. And then she gets recruited by this government organization called the Naturals, and these are kids that have specific talents, like a profile, or like really good at lies, or really good at like knowing like case stuff. And they kind of build this team to crack cold cases. And they all live in this house together, and they're such dynamic personalities. All the characters really made the book for me. I don't have the book in front of me, but I know it was Leah, Cassie, Sloane, and I can't remember the guys. There was two guys who caused a lot of drama for Cassie. But it was just a really, really interesting book. It felt like kind of like college. Like, they didn't really have any classes other than, like, their profiling classes. But it was really, really interesting, and I really, really enjoyed it. So Cassie winds up going here, and she's going to be trained to be a profiler when a cold case comes up that is very reminiscent of her mother's murder. And she is determined to find out who killed her mother. That is, like, her goal in life. And she's thinking that being in this program will allow her to be able to find out who killed her mother. And it turns out that this person is replicating the deaths of, replicating the ways that her mother died. And it's her and all these people's goals to try to figure out what's going on. Figure out who is killing and if this is the same person that killed Cassie's mother. And it is a very, very fast-paced novel. And for me, it's Jennifer L. Barnes, the author, is also a criminal psychologist. So everything she does is very, very based in fact, and I was a psychology major in college, and I really loved it. I, like, could not stop listening to it. All the characters are so dynamic. You follow Cassie's point of view, but you really get enough about the other characters. They have some very, very dynamic situations, and all these characters have some type of baggage, and I love complex characters. I really, really do. But it's a very, very realistic look at things, and there's no fantastical elements, at least not yet. But I really like this. It's like a procedural book for kids, and it was so fast-paced. Reminded me a little bit of like James Patterson, like his Women's Murder Club, but for kids. And I love those books, but this was just as engaging and just as riveting as books that he wrote. But I love the whole like dynamics between the kids and how they became friends, and you know who you could trust, who you couldn't trust, and Cassie was really learning that. Cassie was not only learning what type of person she wanted to be, but also like what type of profiler she would be. So it was a fascinating book. I'm really, really excited for Killer Instinct, and I know the next one's coming out soon, but I have it, so that will be hopefully wrap up at some point, either this month or next month. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The next book I'm going to talk about is All Fall Down by Ally Carter. This is the first Ally Carter book that I have read, and I really enjoyed it. As a reader, I love books that have unique premises. So this book takes place in like a fictitious country, and all the countries have like houses in this country, so it's like Embassy Row. And all of these embassies have children. So they all become friends and they all bond. And the book is led by the lead character named Gracie. And she winds up going to live with her grandfather, who is the advisor for America. So she's on this row and she meets all these people. And Gracie has had a very, very difficult life. About 3 or 4 years ago, her mother was brutally killed or in a fire. And Gracie is convinced that someone murdered her mother and that her mother was shot to death. And no one believes her. No one's really giving her any answers, and she's convinced this has happened. And one night she goes to a party, and she winds up something happens and she has to go sneak into an embassy, and that is a no-no. You don't sneak into other people's embassies, because if you get caught, it could be like a national incident and it can cause war. But she feels really, really bad about what happened, so she winds up doing this. And when she's there, she winds up overhearing a government conspiracy that is affected about the prime minister of this nation. I'm not giving a whole lot away. This is in the first few chapters of the book. It's on the back flap too. But this organization leads her to believe that whoever's doing this wound up causing her mother's murder. And it is such a fast-paced read. You have to know what happens. It's very unclear, like, if Gracie's crazy, if Gracie's not crazy, what really happened. And for most of the book, I was convinced of one thing. I thought that, okay, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be revealed that this is what happens. And it totally shocked me. I was like, oh my god, I did not see that coming. And it was really gut-wrenching. But I also think it really dealt with post-traumatic stress and PTSD in a really interesting way with kids. Normally, if you ever see it in young adult literature, I don't think it's done very, very well. But I think Ally Carter really had a really, really good grasp on it and a really good understanding of what was going on. And I really like that. I haven't read anything by Ally Carter before, but I really, really like the series, and I'm hopeful to pick up her Gallagher Girl series and the High Society series, because they're in a very, very similar vein, a very, very heightened experience. But I really liked it. I love the characters. I love all the characters in the book, and just really learning about the different embassies and the rules. And it was such fast-paced. This book ended at quite a cliffhanger. It kind of opened, like, the opening of a door, and that was kind of the ending of the book. So I'm really excited to see when the next book out, what exactly happens, and see what happens to Gracie. But I was just wondering if you guys have read this, if you guys have read other books by these authors, by Jennifer Lynn Barnes or by Ally Carter. What are your guys' favorite series by her? And what do you think I should read next? I have my eyes on High Society, but I'm willing to take recommendations of what I should read next. As always, please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to do a lot of more fun things this summer now that I'm off from school. I made a promise in my last video. Right now I have 5 subscribers. If I get 10, I will do a fun giveaway to anyone subscribed to my channel. I'm still thinking about what it's going to be. It might be a book. So we'll see. But, yeah, so let me know what your guys' thoughts. As always, just come to me on Goodreads, Twitter. Go to my book like wrongs. I have non-spoiler reviews about them, a little bit more in-depth details. But I hope you guys are having a great day.